Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reunion Gold's live investment summit today, hosted by Six. And I'm pleased today to introduce our speaker, Interim CEO and Exploration Manager, Carlos Bertoni. He's going to walk us through some figures and provide updates on their latest press release, which you can download for yourself in the Handouts tab found on the right-hand side of your screen at any time during today's presentation. After which, we're going to be running into a small Q&A session, so feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A tab found also on the right-hand side of your screen. Without further ado, Carlos, I want to hand things over to you to get us started.
Hi, Cameron. Good day. Good day to everyone. Pleasure to see you again, talk to you again about Reunion Gold. I'm Carlos Bertoni, the interim CEO. I'm a geologist by training, and happy to be talking to you. This is, I think, our fifth conversation about our company and our projects in Guyana Shield. What we call the Guyana Shield is this large mass of land in the north and northeastern edge of South America. This is an area we've been involved, myself and our colleagues, for a long time, since the early 90s. We were successful discovering and delivering projects like Omai in Guyana, Roosevelt in Suriname, Roosevelt is still in production. And then that group, we walked each one our ways. The late 90s, the price of gold went down, and then we got back together and continued from where we left. So we've been reporting a new discovery in Guyana for now a year and a half, what's called the Oko West project. This is a complete grassroots, brand new discovery we've made in Guyana. And of course, all these countries, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana, which make the bulk of the Guyana Shield, are very well endowed because gold has been produced in these countries for centuries. And most of it artisanally. There's still a lot of artisanal gold being produced. And of course, but we also demonstrated ourselves and some colleagues that you have world-class gold deposits in the region. So our current Oko West project is our latest discovery, the one we're very proud about it, that we've been talking about it for the last year or so. Just when COVID was hitting the world, we were busy in Guyana starting to do soil geochemistry, that is collecting soil samples on a place called Oko. And then we saw that we have some anomalies. And then we have to stop our work. Then went back late in the 20s. And when we did some follow-up with trenching, mechanized trenching, sampling those soil anomalies, and then eventually start drilling in 21. And we've been drilling since this project. We have up to about 40,000 meters of drilling now with diamond drill rigs. And we just mobilized our fifth drill rig to the project. And of course, we started with a single rig in 2020, late December 2020. We only had money to drill 1,000 meters, which we did between December and January 2021. That demonstrated that we had continuity of gold mineralization at depth. Then we continued trenching, and then around May, June last year, we were able to raise some money. Then we brought to the project 2 drill rigs. Now we had 5 drill rigs. So this is a fairly young project, and it's quite unusual to have delivered so many good results in a short period of time, even with our experience in the region. And what is becoming the Oko West project, which we call it the Oko West deposit. What we've seen so far on this project is extremely encouraging. We just issued a press release yesterday. I invite you to read it. And you can see some background information in our company website as well, where we talk a bit about the history and about the results. And for full transparency, all our drill intersections are posted, every single hole, even the bad ones, the holes that didn't get anything, we post them so people can have a full vision of our work. Yeah? This assay results at the intervals for each holes are posted on our website. So you're invited to visit that with time. Okay? And so we've been drilling this project strongly since June, July last year. So talking about 18 months of drilling. We are increasing the pace of our program, our drilling exploration, and our current program is about another 40,000 meters of drilling to go forward. The results we obtained are outstanding. We had excellent intersections of several tens of meters, several grams. And if you look at our website, some of the figures we usually like to show in our press releases, you see that we have excellent continuity, both laterally and at depth. This deposit is what we call the orogenic type deposit. I don't want to bother you with too much geology today, but it's a typical deposit that you find in all the regions of the planet, like the Guyana Shield. In Canada, you have the Abitibi Belt in northern Ontario, northern Quebec, Western Australia, and Western Africa. These are typical shield areas, very old terrains that contain this type of gold deposits. They're usually controlled by structures, faults, and shears that break up the rock. They create space, and with metamorphism and deformation of this rock, you have fluids that move through these fractures, fill those fractures and shears, and when the rocks cool down, it leaves behind all these quartz veins with gold. So your deposit is as rich and as large on the degree of breaking, of shearing of those rocks. In our case, we have already drilled what we call the Kairuni zone, which is about 1.5 kilometers long. And we drilled this deposit down to a depth of 600 meters vertical depth. And gold is very continuously disseminated in these rocks. Here's a picture, a map that I'm asking Cameron. I believe it's still showing, Cameron, this map?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So here's what they call the Kairuni zone. I'll draw a circle around it. Okay. And what you see in red, this is to do with the grade of the gold. The stronger the colors, the red, the higher the grade of the gold. And this is about, in terms, you cannot see the scale very easily on this map. By the way, this map is in the press release. This arrow here is 1 kilometer long, just to give you an idea. So this is over 1 kilometer long, and this is a fairly tabular north-south striking deposit. It's steeply dipping to the east in this direction here, okay? And we'll be busy drilling it to a density of about one drill hole every 50 meters, roughly. Okay? This is enough density for us, allows ourselves or our consultants to estimate a resource, a mineral resource. That is, what is the mass of rock containing gold that you have in a particular area, in a particular volume. Okay? So we have to drill this thing in a density, sufficient density, so that you can estimate that. And we are busy doing that work as we speak. What we reported this week, and I just go back to this particular figure here, that's the same figure I was showing you before, except we're looking at a vertical image, looking to the west. And all those colors, the stronger or the colors, the better the gold grade. So this is roughly the 1 kilometer that I was showing that scale. The vertical scale here and the horizontal scale is 150 meters. So you can see there's a very good distribution of gold over this 1.5 kilometer, and it's particularly hot here, what we call block 4. This is the hole I was referring earlier at a vertical depth of 600 meters from the surface. That's our hole 112. We disclosed those results. The results for this hole on June 13, just before PDAC, and demonstrates that this mineralization does have depth continuity. We're slowly filling that in. These are recent holes that we have announced. All the red dots here are holes that were announced on this last press release. I invite you to look at it. There's too much detail here for me to go through. But these are holes that were announced, and we're slowly demonstrating that this whole system continues at depth. Okay? So I'd say by the end of January or so, we expect to have all this area here infilled. These are pierce points where these holes intersect mineralization on a plane. We expect to have all this infilled with the ongoing drill program. That's why we need 5 drill rigs, because these are fairly deep holes. This is 600 meters, so we have to stand back and drill those holes from the east going to the west. Okay? So this is what the bulk of the work we're doing. At the same time, where Block 4 is looking very strong, we're testing the waters here, going to the south and going to the north to expand this mineralization laterally. Because this whole system is actually 6 kilometers long. We have evidence from soil geochemistry that this thing continues another 3.5 kilometers to the south. And of course, we are pretty much at the end of our boundary here, project boundary here to the north. Our neighbors is G2 Goldfields to the north. They have some excellent results as well. This is a very long and continuous system. So this is what we announced. And I'll show you a couple of sections now, what we call cross sections. We're going to do, there's one section cutting right through here vertically. You're going to be looking from south to north when you look at that section. That's this guy here. Okay? Actually, this guy here. This is the deep hole that I was talking about, hole 112, where we had an average of 3.5 meters over 70 meters or so. And the mineralization is very strongly, so we're gradually infilling. This hole was just released. We drilled another one here. We're waiting for the results. And as you can see, mineralization is contained on this slab of rocks here. They're fairly steeply dipping towards the east. We're looking to the north. We also disclose results from this hole. So this is what the deposit looks like. These are sedimentary rocks, and they're essentially containing all the mineralization. To one side, you have granites. To the other side, you have more granites. And this slab of rocks got caught between these two granites, and they were thoroughly broken up and very fractured. A lot of space was created. So fluids came up and infilled these rocks, and now they're essentially hosting the deposit. I attract your attention to this faint line here. This line is where above this line, the rocks have been weathered. Remember, we're talking about Guyana, we're talking about the Amazonian jungle here, we're talking about lots of rain, lots of tropical weather. So all these rocks near the surface, they're turned into clay. And below this line here, these are still unweathered rocks, fresh rocks. It's important because if you're going to mine this as an open pit, you want to have mineralized soft rocks right on the surface. You just have to come with a shovel and dig it and put it in a truck and send it to the mill. You don't have to blast anything. So it's much cheaper to mine rocks like this that have been oxidized than the fresh rocks which you have to break up with explosives, etc. So if you look at the scale here, we have a good depth of mineralized soft rocks, weathered rocks, which is ideal for this for deposit to be mined as an open pit. You also notice from this section that we don't have any pits, any artisanal pits near the surface. There was nobody knew about this deposit until we came and found it by soil geochemistry, by trenching, by drilling. So quite often in this part of the world, you'd be drilling under somebody's pit, an artisanal pit full of water. That's certainly not the case here. We have been very fortunate in this discovery. We don't have to deal with the issue of having all this material being removed. So we are working with a pristine deposit that essentially has been discovered, as I said, as a grassroots opportunity. And the same thing, I have another section here, the same story. The same group of sedimentary rocks caught between two granites, and the difference in competence between these rocks, or hardness, if you want, between these rocks and these rocks caused all the breakup of this material. So this is like a sandwich situation where you have weak rocks caught in between two very hard rocks, and when you apply tectonics to this, these rocks break up and become thoroughly broken up, and fluids can move in and leave behind all this gold-bearing quartz veins. Okay? So this is fairly put simply, that's the nature of this beast. And of course, it's open at depth. We have to decide, how far we're going to stop drilling this thing, because we think this is mineable. We're talking about depths here of about 400 meters. We know this thing continues down to 600. This is quite mineable. We'll have waste on the hanging wall. We're going to have waste on the footwall, but the grades are quite strong. We're looking at average, say, arithmetically about 2 grams per ton contained on these mineralized rocks. So it's a grade that helps you extract a large volume of rocks and go deeper. And who knows, we might go and make this in an underground deposit later on. But it's a very healthy situation. And again, here we have the boundary of the weathered rocks and the fresh rocks. And again, if you look at the scale, fairly deep, nice material to start your pit. Okay? So in terms of exploration, that's where we are. We're drilling, we're busy drilling. I go back to this map here. We're busy drilling this area. We are continue drilling, I would say, let's put here an arrow. We're busy drilling to the south. We have another 3.5 kilometers to go. We have some more drilling here up to our boundary. Our boundary is right there. We have another, let's say, at least 500 meters to go. That's our neighbors here, G2 to the north. And we have a long ways to go to the south. So we have a lot of work to do on the exploration side. In parallel to this, of course, we think we have a mineable deposit. We have not demonstrated that yet. I have to be cautious what I say. We have a gold deposit. We will eventually have to do a feasibility study on it to demonstrate it's mineable, but it's very encouraging in terms of what we have. So we're doing several other activities that go in parallel with this exploration work. We're doing baseline environment. We need to understand the area where we are, the ground we are, in terms of flora, fauna, etc. A lot of alluvial gold already happened here in this area. For example, these areas here, these are all alluvial areas that have been mined alluvially. Okay? Of course, this gold mine came from here, not surprisingly. So we have to understand what happened with this artisanal mining. We have to understand the water quality. We have to understand the flora, the fauna. We're in the Amazon jungle. We have an immense variety of flora and fauna, which we need to understand. Okay? So that's on the way. We just completed our dry season. We did a wet season back in July. We just completed our dry season survey, and this work will continue into next year. We're also doing metallurgical study. One thing is to have a gold deposit, but the next step, you have to demonstrate you're able to extract the gold from the rocks. Right now, we have 400 samples in the lab in Georgetown being processed for what they call bottle rolls, in which you put those, you crush the rocks, put them in a solution, and you see how capable the solution is of extracting gold from the rock. So that's essential work that needs to be done. It will continue to next year. We're also doing work in terms of geotechnical work. We have to see how can we mine this thing. Are the walls competent for us to put a pit, etc. So we're doing geotechnical work. And we're also very proud of the work we're doing with the community. There's nobody living in this area, but just to the north of us, we have a community of several hundred people, which are miners, artisanal miners, and our neighbors. So what we installed in our camp, we have a medical doctor, we have 2 nurses, and in partnership with the Ministry of Health of Guyana, we have a malaria eradication program. Malaria, which kills a lot of people in this part of the world, has been endemic here for decades. And we've been working a year and a half on this control. We're providing free diagnosis and free treatment to anybody that comes to our camp. And we can see the curve, the malaria curve, coming down systematically. We hardly have 1 or 2 cases now per month. Previously, we have tens of cases every month, including our own employees, our own collaborators. So that is under control now. It's a great partnership with the Ministry of Health. We're very proud of it. We'll continue that effort as to serve the community. These are stakeholders that are here, and we see them as our neighbors, and we have to be good citizens in Guyana. So that's something we're very proud of what we're doing. So in a nutshell, we're being very active, we're being very successful, and we'll continue delivering good news, I'm certain, in the near future. We're going to put out the press release with the results maybe every 2 months or so. So the next one will likely happen either December, probably more likely in January. And we'll continue reporting our results. As I said, take a look at our website. All the results are posted there, additional information. And if you have specific questions, send us an email. Be happy to get in touch with you. Anyway, thank you for your attention. Let's see what questions we have today.
Thanks so much, Carlos. And yes, as a reminder to everyone in the audience, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A chat found on the right-hand side of your screen. But Carlos, first question, do you have enough cash on hand to continue doing what you're doing?
Yes, we're very happy in that situation. Back in early 2021 was certainly not the case. And it's one thing helps the other. Having good results, of course, helps you raise money to continue delivering good results. So last June, we did a financing, a private placement, $36 million. So we're sitting now roughly in $50 million in the bank. And that's certainly sufficient to do the work that we plan to do and into next year. Great.
When are you going to release your maiden resource estimate?
That's a question that everybody's asking. It's a good one. As I said, we've been drilling for a year and a half now. And a company can issue a maiden resource anytime it feels it needs to or has sufficient information to do so. Of course, as ourselves, we're listed in Toronto. We're a Canadian company. We have to go by Canadian rules. So our resource statement will be under the NI 483-101, National Instrument 483-101. This estimate has to be done independently per external party who will be looking at our data, accepting or making recommendations, etc. But we'll be using our database to estimate that resource. Okay? We have already engaged somebody to start looking at our data. We have not set a time yet to disclose a resource, but it will certainly happen in the first half of next year, okay? Up to June. We feel we have a lot of room yet to grow into this deposit. Okay? We want to release a fairly robust resource. So we're giving ourselves a bit more time, a bit more drilling to demonstrate the geometry and the size of this deposit, and then release the resource. But that's something very much in mind. and we're working towards that maiden resource sometime next year.
Absolutely. Question from Dan: will you be adding drill rigs?
Yes, we have. This day we have 5 rigs as we speak, and since COVID has been an issue, both with materials and people, of course. Sometimes you can get a rig, but you don't have the drillers, or the rigs you're missing parts for the rigs. So we're increasing our drilling capacity at least to 6 rigs. I don't think we're going to grow much more than that. It's a handful, to manage 6 rigs going all the time, and you have to do the work properly, etc. So I think 6 will deliver the work that we have in our program, and which will continue throughout next year. So even if something in relation to the previous question, even if we release a maiden resource, that doesn't mean we're going to stop drilling. It's a report card. The resource is a photograph of the deposit in a given period of time. Every deposit you continue drilling until the very end of it, because you have to demonstrate, as you mine, you have to replace resources that you mine. So it's a constant exercise. So we'll be, as I said, release something in the first half of next year, but our drilling program will certainly stretch out for the entire next year.
Absolutely. In terms of mining analyst, who's covering you?
Yes, so we have very good coverage, actually, and we're very happy with this coverage. Some very good people looking at our data and our project. Currently, we have Bank of Montreal, BMO. We have Paradigm. Paradigm was a pioneer covering reunion gold. We have Sprott. We have Industrial Alliance, and we have Cormark. In our website, you can find the names of the mining analysts. These are geologists or mine engineers who have reviewed our data. Most of them actually have been on site, and they have published their research, mostly among their clients. But I think if you email them, they'll be happy to share their research. And of course, they're allowed to say things I'm not allowed. They're allowed to make projections, what the deposit is going to be, how big it's going to be, etc., from their interpretation of the data. So I invite you to consult them to learn more about the project.
Absolutely. And this question is in relation to your own title, but when will a permanent CEO be selected?
Yes, as you mentioned, I'm the interim CEO. I stepped in this position because our previous CEO had to step aside because of a health situation. And with the board, we have been discussing the opportunity of bringing a permanent CEO to the company, somebody who will be able to bring even more focus to the work that's coming ahead of us. That announcement, that is happening, and that should be announced shortly, and we expect to have a permanent CEO for the new year.
All right. Dennis wants to know if there are any other grassroots exploration targets to develop within the permit.
Yes, of course, I don't have the right maps here available at this minute, but what I'm showing here on this particular map is very much the eastern edge of the property, or the project area. To the west of this deposit, we have several other targets, which we have hardly done any work on them. In fact, our VP Exploration, Justin, just ordered a small rig that will do some drilling, short drill holes to the west of us. We have some good indication, good prospects that we hope to drill shortly, and that we expect to find additional mineralization. This thing is the way geology works. When you have gold mineralization, you have a deposit, but sometimes it happens as clusters, and of different sizes, etc. So once you open a mine, anything you find, even if it's relatively small, that can be interest because it will be added to the resource base. So we will next year be doing quite a bit more work to the west of this deposit, and we expect to find interesting mineralization there as well.
Well, Carlos, I want to thank you for the great presentation and this Q&A you've walked us through, but that looks like all the questions we received for today. So before we wrap up, I'd like to pass things over to you for some closing remarks.
Great, Cameron. Thanks for the opportunity. It's great to talk to our shareholders, our friends again. And repeating myself, please stay in touch. We will have quite a few more news to deliver. And if you want to talk to us specifically about something, send us an email. We'll be happy to reply. Thank you and have a good day.